Welcome, Fantasizers, to another episode of your Big Fat Fantasy. Again, I am Nicholas Logan.
I'm Anthony Bravo, and here we are again. We're on episode 20, and we're just looking to get you some more content.
Episode 20 already, wow, and week 10 coming up, so we're on pace for about 2 videos per week, but season goes on. Hopefully we can get more out there, TikToks and all that good stuff. But starting out today, we're going to do our Thursday night picks. Our last video, we do apologize, did have a lot of technical difficulties with
Took
post-production.
like a whole day to get out.
Yeah, it was a lot of post-production
Like 30
issues,
hours, actually.
So we tried something else, tried something new with the screen record. I know we did it earlier when we did one of our mock drafts, but this video was a lot longer, and hence the technical difficulties. But we know how to get through it now. For if we ever do when we do our next, dynasty recap at the end of the year, we know how to get through it and fix all those issues. So we're sorry for getting the video out late. I know it came out on Friday, and we talked about our Thursday night picks on Friday, so it's a little weird. But anyways, the picks. I'll start off with D'Onta Foreman. I have two hits this week, one miss. D'Onta Foreman, he was actually the highest scoring fantasy player in this Thursday night game. Had 19 fantasy points, had a career high of 31 carries, and 130 yards, which is actually 2 less than his career high, and had a 1 touchdown. And Hubbard only had 5 carries, so I know I said watch out for Foreman. He might split the backfield with Chuba Hubbard, but that's not what happened. And Foreman was, the bell cow, and did what he did with the workload.
Yeah, 19 PPR points, 1 touchdown. That's as much as you can ask for from D'Onta Foreman. You probably got him off waivers.
He didn't even have a catch in the game. So.
Yeah, and you probably got him off waivers.
Yeah. If you got him off waiver, that's one of those great waivers.
Solid, yeah.
And I remember a couple weeks ago, someone's like, it's been a weird season for waiver wires. There hasn't really been any good waiver, juicy waiver pickers.
Yeah.
D'Onta Foreman definitely.
He's one of those for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I pretty much just missed all my picks. I was just started off with Kyle Pitts. He only had 2 receptions out of 8 targets for 28 yards. Only finished with 4.8 PPR points. And this is Mariota kind of started to heat up late, but a lot of the workload went to Drake London. So yeah, Kyle Pitts was just a miss, man. A miss.
Yeah, and Kyle Pitts actually is getting a lot more targets, though.
He's
averaging
8 targets.
Yeah, the last few
That's
games
a lot,
he's
only catching
8.
2.
Yeah, he's only catching 2 the last couple of games. So
yeah,
seeing the targets you want from a guy that you drafted in the 3rd round as your tight end 1, but not making the most out of the opportunities.
Looking very hit or miss right now.
Yeah,
for Kyle
more
Pitts
towards the middle. I think 2 or 3 hits this year.
Yeah,
through 10 weeks. So
yeah, Drake London not looking reliable either, but I mean he had a good day. Yeah,
had a nice little touchdown there, and
yeah.
I think the Falcons have the easiest wide receiver schedule going forward. So
yeah,
it's good news for Drake London owners.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially as he gets more going now that he's
Yeah, and especially because you got him late.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I'll move it on to the quarterback, Marcus Mariota, Atlanta Falcons quarterback, had 17.74 fantasy points, was the highest scoring player after D'Onta Foreman, so he was the highest scoring player on the Falcons. Wasn't a great game for him, but he completed 19 of his 30 passes, had 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and he actually had his least amount of rushing attempts in this game, only rushed 3 times, but he still rushed for 43 yards, so he did make the most with his limited carries, and 17.74 fantasy points for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. He was getting locked up at first, but
that's a lot of ill-advised passes.
Yeah, that final drive really helped him. So he's the quarterback 9 right now. So it's honestly pretty surprising to see that he's ranked above my guy Justin Herbert. But yeah, crazy for Mariota owners. Good for Mariota owners.
Yeah.
It's gonna bring me to DJ Moore. Had 4 receptions out of 6 targets for 29 yards. Finished with 6.9 PPR points. They were just running the ball a lot, man. And I know Terrence Marshall had a really long reception, but not much going in the passing game for PJ Walker. It was pretty much the D'Onta Foreman show, and then Laviska Shenault had that nice run. So yeah, DJ Moore was a miss. Yeah, big miss.
Going on to the guy you just mentioned, my only miss of the week, or only miss from Thursday night's game. Terrace Marshall did not look like a Marshall at all. Wasn't really on fire at all. Yeah. Did play a lot of snaps. He's still in the game most of the time. only saw 2 targets, but like you said, he did catch one of those targets for 43 yards. Actually led the team in receiving yards that game. And 43 yards is not a lot to lead your team. And I was on 1 catch 5.3 fantasy points he finished with. I plugged him in as a flex play and didn't look good. So, yeah, not a good game for Carolina Panthers receivers.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they might just have to go with Baker. Maybe try Sam Darnold out because I don't know about PJ Walker. He's not looking like he's that guy.
Yeah.
Only had 108 passing yards. Only threw it 16 times. So that goes to show you they don't really trust him throwing the ball anyways. So
ran a lot.
Yeah.
31 attempts from Deontay Foreman's a lot. That's like Derrick Henry numbers right there.
Yeah, that is for sure. And that brings me to my last miss, who actually recorded negative receiving yardage. Tyler Algier had negative 17 receiving yards, 3 receptions, and 8 carries for 20 rushing yards. Only finished with 3.3 PPR points. And yeah, man, that it just seems like they don't really know who they want running the ball. He only got 8 carries. I know he wasn't on the field for a lot of the snaps, so. Yeah, big miss from me. I don't really know what they plan on doing with the RBs. I feel like they might be leaning towards more Cordell. So, yeah, not really good for Tyler Algier owners.
Yeah, but even Cordell Patterson didn't have.
He didn't have a
do
good
anything
game
either in the running game. So
yeah, just a bad overall game for the Falcons.
Yeah, so I'm surprised I actually got 2 misses from this game because I didn't even watch the game, to be honest. I didn't think much of it, and nothing really happened out of it, but. Those are our Thursday night picks. We'll again finish with our, picks for Sunday and Monday. Moving to our next segment, I know we just came off a dynasty recap, so I just wanted to recap 2 teams that are looking extremely well. Real teams, not fantasy football teams. Real NFL teams that look well. We did a segment earlier in the season. We talked about the Eagles and Dolphins, and we talked about all the similarities between the 2 teams. We talked about how both their starting quarterbacks are from Alabama, how 2 of their receivers in their second year are from Alabama, and they both brought in very high talented wide receivers and Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown, and 2 quarterbacks that people kind of were doubting to start the season. A lot of people didn't trust Jalen Hurts. A lot of people didn't trust Tua, and they are proving everyone wrong. Neither of them have lost a game. Obviously, the Eagles right now are 8-0, and the Dolphins, they are 6-0 when Tua plays a full game, and they're 0-3 when he doesn't. So for the most part, Tua is undefeated. It could maybe easily be 9-0 right now.
Yeah.
If he's on the field, if he's starting every game and on the field for 100% of the snaps.
Yeah.
Like Hurts is, and right now Tua's kind of been stealing the show though. You were high on Tua to start the season more than me. I was high on Hurts more than you to start the season. But like I said, 2 teams that are super similar and 2 teams that are looking really, really good through 9 weeks.
Yep.
And so let's just jump into some of the numbers that these 2 teams are putting up. We'll start, of course, with the Dolphins and Tua, just because he's been absolutely phenomenal. I say if you're a betting person, go out there and put money on Tua to win that MVP. His odds are looking good. I think Mahomes is the favorite, then Josh Allen, then Jalen Hurts, and then Tua I think is 4th favorite. But if he's playing every game, if he's healthy in all those games, he might easily be the favorite with some of these numbers he's putting up. He's leading the NFL in so many categories. If you look here, he's leading the NFL in passes of 10-plus air yards. He has 60 completions when he does that. That's first in the league, like I said. Has a 1,313 passing yards, which is first. 10 touchdowns, which is 4th. And those are all numbers when he's throwing the ball 10-plus yards down the field. So a guy that they said wasn't very accurate is looking like one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. And a team that you do not want to face in man coverage. At this point, if you're facing the Dolphins, you need to play a zone or just all-out blitz, because you do not want to play any man coverage against this Dolphins team. If you look at their receivers and Waddle and Hill and how fast they are, they're going to beat their man, and Tua is going to find them each and every time. He's first in the NFL in QBR in man coverage with an 89 QBR rating. He's first in yards per passing attempt with 10.3. He's 67% completion is also first. His 52% first down conversion is also first, and he's 12% passing touchdowns in man coverage, also first in the league. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories that he leads the NFL in. Good categories too.
Yeah.
That he leads the NFL. What you look for in a quarterback when defenses put you in man coverage. And on third down, has the number 1 passer rating in the NFL. He's thrown for 601 yards and 8 touchdowns when facing a third down. So that's a lot of teams, obviously they pass on third down. There's not a lot of teams that run on third down, unless you're like the Titans or the Panthers now. But the Dolphins are going to throw on third down, and Tua is going to complete those third down completions. And that can really, really deplete a defense when you have him 3rd and long, and Tua comes in and he finds Tyreek Hill deep down the field, or Jaylen Waddle deep down the field, and late in the game in the 4th quarter where your defense is tired and you have that 3rd down on the ropes, and he's still slinging it in there. Tua, man, he's just had a tremendous game in his 6 games that he's played.
It's crazy. Like, I don't know when's the last time, like, 2 teammates are in the top 5, like, rankings in PPR as wide receivers, because you got Tyreek Hill, he's number 1, and you got Jaylen Waddle, he's number 5.
Yeah.
And then you even got Mike Gesicki, he's the number 15 tight end, but number 15, that's still a solid tight end. That's a solid tight end too. And it's all because of Tua, and like you said, Tua, he came out of the game early, week 4 against Cincinnati. He only got two fantasy points that game, so you can't even really count that as a game. He missed week 5, he missed week 6, and then right when he came back week 7, they got right back on point. So
yeah.
So man,
they haven't lost a game when he's on that field, pretty much.
Yeah, and then he's the quarterback 12 right now. That's a low end quarterback 1.
That's only because he missed games.
Yeah, and then Jalen Hurts, he's the quarterback 5. So I mean, just like we said, just like we thought it was gonna play out, it played out. So
yeah. And speaking of those wide receivers, we talked about how Tua's first in so many categories in the NFL. As a quarterback, Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver, he leads the NFL in almost every single wide receiver category, what you want from not only a fantasy owner of Tyreek Hill like I am. I mean, I got him in the 2nd round. I try to trade him to my homie for CeeDee Lamb, because I love CeeDee Lamb, and he didn't want to take it. I offered him Tyreek Hill and Kenneth Walker for CeeDee Lamb. He didn't want to take it. Now I have Kenneth Walker and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is one of my favorite players to own this year. He is killing it. He has 206.9 fantasy points, which is 2nd most in fantasy right now, just behind, of course, Josh Allen, who's obviously the undisputable fantasy god this year. And hopefully he's healthy.
Good.
Yeah, hopefully he's healthy. But Tyreek Hill is right behind him.
Yeah.
And if you look at what Tyreek Hill, like I said, he leads the NFL in so many categories. He leads the NFL in targets. He has 100 targets this season, which is 7 more than Cooper Kupp, who is 2nd in the league. He's number 1 in air yards, 1,146. He leads the NFL in receiving yards right now. He has 1,104 receiving yards, and those yards alone is more than the Cowboys, Steelers, Falcons, Texans, Giants, Bears, Ravens, and Titans. That's more yards than all those teams' wide receivers combined. And you're talking about teams that have good wide receiver cores. The Cowboys, not bad. Steelers, not bad. Falcons, young. Texans, they have Brandon Cooks. Giants, we talk about how bad their wide receiving core is. Justin Fields is getting it going. Yeah. Ravens have had some injuries. Titans don't pass the ball. But Cowboys, Steelers, I mean, those are 2 teams that have some good wide receivers on that team for the most through the season. And Tyreek Hill has more yards than all their wide receivers combined with 1,104. That's 237 more yards than Justin Jefferson, who's 2nd in the league. So absolutely just destroying the league. He's actually on pace on pace to break Calvin Johnson's single season record. In 2012, Calvin Johnson broke the receiving yard record, had 1,964 yards. And through those first 9 weeks, he only had 767 yards. So Tyreek Hill almost has 400 more yards through 9 weeks than Calvin Johnson did when he broke that NFL record. So at this point, Tyreek Hill is on pace, especially with that 1 extra game now that teams get and a 17-game season. Tyreek Hill can easily probably finish his season with 2,000 yards and just crush Calvin Johnson's record. And he's first.
He has 6 more weeks.
Yeah, 6 more weeks to go.
The craziest thing.
They have 7 more games. They haven't had their bye yet. So have they? No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. So it's 6. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
After this week.
Oh no, it's 7 because they go to week 18. That's my fault. But the craziest thing about all this is he only has 3 touchdowns this year.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. So he's going off in standard leagues and he's going off in PPR leagues.
Yeah,
like, he's valuable.
All those
regardless.
yards he's getting, and the touchdowns aren't there. I think he was like, he's super low in not last, I want to say, but he's definitely not top in getting the ball in the red zone. Like I think this last Sunday was only his 2nd time he saw a red zone target, and he scored.
Yeah, and he scored a touchdown.
So he's only seen 2 red zone targets, but he's that deep ball threat. He's gonna get down the field. He's gonna get open, and he doesn't find the end zone. Waddle's kind of been the end zone guy for them, but hey, he's gonna break the receiving record and just crushing it. He's averaging 3.97 yards per route run, which is crazy.
Yeah,
just
Insane.
Just having a normal.
Crazy.
If you thought Cooper Kupp season last year was phenomenal, I mean, Tyreek Hill is just absolutely breathtaking just to watch him out there. And he even did it when they had the backup quarterbacks in there. He was putting up decent numbers. His worst week, I believe, was like week 3 or 4 when he only had like 4 fantasy points. But ever since then, he's been absolutely crushing the league. And, you know, like I said, his teammate Jaylen Waddle, who you said is the wide receiver 5, he's not obviously putting up Tyreek Hill numbers, but he does have 6 touchdowns this year, which is tied second in the NFL for the most for wide receivers or any player with any receiving touchdowns, tight ends.
Yeah.
So, and he's 4th in yards per route run, which is a great stat, 2.97. And Tua's first, he has one more yard that he averages. And Jaylen Waddle's 5th in receiving yards in the NFL. He has 812 receiving yards, and he's 5th in the NFL in yards per catch, 17.3 yards per catch. So those two receivers right there with the way Tua can throw the ball.
Crazy.
I know you have Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah, I love Jaylen Waddle. He's one of my favorite players to own. Yeah, in both dynasty leagues
and redraft.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill, he has 4 games of 160 or more receiving yards.
Yeah.
So, dude, he's just going off.
He doesn't look like he's gonna slow down.
It's like that offense is just tailored for them. For Tua, for Tyreek, for Waddle, it's just tailored for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And now they have Jeff Wilson, who kind of led the backfield. If they can get the running game going,
that's a scary team.
And
that's a potential Super Bowl winner.
Yeah. And their defense is
they can get hot in
definitely not doing their job, but if they can come together and get healthy and build a decent enough defense, that offense is going to take over the game.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes if you just have an offense that's too overpowering, that's enough.
Yeah.
You just got to have an all right defense.
And they're in a really tough division with good defenses that they're facing. I mean, the Jets, the Bills, the Patriots, those are teams. We got
to edit these flags, but yeah.
Yeah. The Dolphins, I mean, they can come out on top in that division. They already beat Buffalo earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And which is one of the better defenses in the league and definitely have one of the better offenses in the league. Obviously not as good as the Dolphins. The Dolphins actually lead the league with 2,757 receiving yards this year.
Crazy.
So they're throwing the ball a lot.
It's just video game numbers.
Yeah, and we talk about how Tyreek has more yards than those 8 teams that we mentioned, but those were just the receivers. Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle right now, they're combining for 1,916 receiving yards, which is more than the Panthers, Browns, Ravens, Steelers, Falcons, Texans, Cowboys, Giants, Bears, and Titans, and only 3 less than the Broncos. And that's only the wide receivers. That's their receiving as a whole. That's running backs, tight ends, receivers, fullbacks, whoever that they're throwing out there. They have more yards than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 teams. They have more yards than. They're just those 2 guys alone are in the top 30% of the league.
Dominance.
And, yeah, just absolutely dominating. And it all starts with Tua, who's just had a phenomenal year so far.
Yeah, he's like the short pass god. It's crazy.
Yes. And then that'll move us on to the Eagles now. A lot of talk about the Dolphins. More so the Eagles, it's kind of their defense that I've kind of stole the show. But Jalen Hurts has played like an MVP this year.
Still ranked higher than Tua. So
yeah, and he's
doing some.
Quarterback 5 right now.
Yeah. And he's rushing quarterback. We always say how on the show that rushing quarterbacks have the most upside, and this is a guy with the most
Tua's
upside.
Throwing the ball, he doesn't run a lot. Jalen Hurts runs a lot, but he also he's been throwing the ball decent. He only has
he has really.
And we talk about it, he has a 0.8% interception percentage, which is only behind Tom Brady, who's at 0.3%. So.
Yeah,
when he throws the ball, he's not turning it over.
Only 2 games with an interception.
Yeah,
he
has 2 interceptions this year. Last year he had 9, so he's on pace to do better than that. Yeah. He had 16 He had 16 passing touchdowns last year. This year he already has 12, so he's passing a lot better, looks a lot better. And Tua, he's 1st in the league in yards per pass thrown. Jalen Hurts is 2nd in the league in yards per pass thrown with 8.5. So not only is he throwing it efficiently, but he can throw the ball deep as well, just like Tua. And he's leading all quarterbacks right now with 6 rushing touchdowns, which is 1st in the NFL for quarterbacks, and has 126 rushing yards. So top 10 in that category. Like you said, the running upside's there, and Jalen Hurts not as accurate with the ball, but accurate enough for the Eagles to be an undefeated team where it does take a lot. The Eagles defense, we can talk about how good they are, but Jalen Hurts keeps them in games. It doesn't turn the ball over where they're on the field every, other every other minute. It seems like you see
Yeah.
defenses where their quarterbacks are turning the ball over and they're already tired. They got to go back on that field and get a stop. It's not easy. It's way easier for especially an elite defense like the Eagles. It's way easier for them to get going when your quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. Way easier. You can rest. You can take a break. Your offense can take a lead. Takes a lot of pressure. You've seen a couple stops and that's game, and that's why they're sitting 8-0 right now.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I just think the Eagles have something that the Dolphins don't, and that's a running game.
Yeah, it's a good point.
They have Miles Sanders. Kenny Gainwell is starting to heat up. I know he had a touchdown last week. So they have an established running game, and the Dolphins don't.
Yeah.
And that can separate you from being undefeated and not being undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a big advantage that the Eagles have.
Definitely. Yeah, they're running back Miles Sanders. I think it's the RB16 right now.
Yeah, RB16 in PPR.
And like I said, Jalen Hurts can run efficiently, and that sets up, the receivers. I know Devonta Smith hasn't had a really good year so far.
Yeah.
But he's done something that Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle hasn't done this year. He's finished as the overall wide receiver 1. So even though Tyreek Hill and Waddle have been putting up insane numbers, they haven't finished as a wide receiver 1 overall this year. And Devonta Smith has. He did that in week 3. So he has that upside. That's all I'm saying. I know it's been probably frustrating, especially for me. I'm a Devonta Smith owner in Dynasty. It's kind of been frustrating, especially the last couple of weeks. He's put it single digits. But he has a lot of high potential where he can go off and have good games like he did in week 3. He has 442 yards this year on 40 catches, only 2 touchdowns. But he can heat up down the stretch, maybe even coming off this bye week. He can start heating up.
Yeah.
But really, A.J. Brown has stolen the show. He's the wide receiver 7 right now, averaging 18.9 fantasy points per game, which is 8th best among receivers. Has 718 receiving yards, right behind Jaylen Waddle, 6th best in the NFL. And he also has 6 touchdowns, just like Jaylen Waddle. And he has 3.23 yards per route run, which is top 10 in the league. And he's 5th in the league in target share percentage. So 30.7% of the targets are going to A.J. Brown. Like I said, it's 5th in the league. So he's top 10 in a lot of major categories is A.J. Brown, which kind of takes, the show away from Devonta Smith a little bit.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that, Devonta Smith, that they don't have 2 wide receiver 1s really is like you made a perfect example. They have a running game where they don't need to throw the ball as much. With the Dolphins, they got to throw the ball a lot more.
Yeah.
So it sets up guys like Waddle and Hill to have bigger games than A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. But either way, both of these offenses are super explosive.
Very, very. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, and they have Dallas Goedert too.
Yeah.
So
he's the top 5 tight end right now. I need to look that up.
Yeah. And
the crazy thing is, I drafted Tua last year. I drafted Waddle last year. I drafted Hurts, and I drafted Devonta Smith all last year in our first startup in the Dynasty. And
Goddard's the tight end 4 in PPR.
See, so that takes away from Devonta Smith. And you said Mike Gesicki's just outside the tight end 1.
Yeah.
So
15. So.
And they already thinking about they were going to trade him and stuff. So that, they don't really implement Gesicki enough into the offense like they do with Dallas Goedert. So.
It's like the Eagles, they have the ability to spread the ball more, and the Dolphins, it's kind of just Tyreek and Waddle.
Yeah. I would love to see like I don't know, like both like the receivers switch on each side. It's like I would like to see Hurts what he can do with Waddle and Hill, and what Tua can do with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I guarantee
cool.
like they would be like A.J. Brown would be the wide receiver 1, Devonta Smith would be wide receiver 5, and then Tyreek Hill would be the wide receiver 7, and Jaylen Waddle wide receiver 32, Devonta Smith. Maybe not that bad, but it would be interesting to see what those wide receivers can do on each off. I think they would produce similar numbers. Those are both those wide receiver cores are just absolutely just
crazy,
phenomenal, and they're young. They're young. Tyreek Hill's 28, but he still looks.
And they're gonna be here for a while. They're gonna be dominant for a while, a couple of years at least. I would say 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Those guys are gonna be drafted high in Dynasty drafts going forward, and redraft leagues going forward. And if you have in Dynasty, you're sitting pretty with those quarterbacks and those receivers right now.
Yeah,
those are untouchable guys.
Yeah,
even Devonta Smith, I say hold on to him a little bit.
Yeah, people try to send me offers for Waddle, and it's just like I'm not giving you Waddle, man.
Sometimes I regret trading Jaylen Waddle because I traded him last year, and I traded Tua as well. But I mean, I did get Marquise Brown out of it. I did get Breece Hall out of it, so it kind of worked out. But yeah, I'm like sometimes I wish I had Jaylen Waddle on my team because
So pretty much you talked about two really good teams. I'm not gonna deep dive into the numbers as much as you did because like I'm just gonna talk about two terrible offenses.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna kind of warn you about these players that they might
The
not
only
be.
reason I dive deep into those numbers because, like I said, these guys are leading in
Yeah.
the NFL. Like,
yeah, and it's good to positively dive into numbers. I'm not gonna negatively dive into numbers and tell you why these people suck so bad. I'm just gonna tell you why they suck. So pretty much, I'm just gonna talk about the Colts. The Colts, they have a terrible offense right now. It just seems like the coaches don't like Matt Ryan. They want to go with the Sam Ehlinger guy, and Sam Ehlinger hasn't really produced anything. He has 7.5 PPR points against the Washington Commanders, who've allowed the second most passing touchdowns thrown on them, and he finished as quarterback 28. So it's like if you're not going to produce against the Washington Commanders, like really what can you do passing the ball? It's not a good sign. He had 6.02 points against New England, and he finished as the quarterback 26 that week. Matt Ryan finished as the quarterback 25 or below in 3 of 7 games this year, and Ellinger's already done it twice in his first 2 starts. So I don't know. I just feel like they should go back to Matt Ryan. Michael Pittman only has 1 touchdown this year, and it happened in week 1. Only finished wide receiver 5 in 2 games this year, and he was exactly the wide receiver 5 in both games. Other than that, he was the wide receiver 27, the wide receiver 58, 37, 42, 33, and 47. So if he's not doing well, he's doing terrible.
Yeah.
He's still a wide receiver 18 overall this year. So, but like his fantasy outlook, in my opinion, just doesn't look too bright. And Jonathan Taylor, he's probably one of the most disappointing first-round picks of the year. We all thought he was back to his normal ways in week 1. He exploded for 27.5 PPR points, but since then he hasn't finished above the RB20, and he finished as low as the RB55 1 week. So I don't know if he's just dealing with lingering injuries, but I have more faith in his fantasy outlook than Michael Pittman, but still, it's just not really looking good for the Colts.
Yeah, for sure. And they just got rid of their head coach too. And it's funny, I was watching that game Sunday, and when they lost, I was like, they got to do something different. They got to get rid of that head coach or something because it's obviously not the quarterback issue. They just changed quarterbacks.
Just
Maybe
seems
it is
like
a quarterback
drama
issue, but there's something in that Colts.
Maybe just drama.
This is a team we had as a tier 8 team going into the season.
Yeah.
We're talking about a team that had a top O-line last year, and the O-line's not doing well. The receivers, obviously. The bright spot has been the rookie Alec Pierce, if anything, or Deion Jackson.
And he's like the wide receiver 55, so it's like really like you really can't even rely on Alec Pierce.
But that's just.
But yeah, that's just
been
the
disappointing.
Colts.
And I have Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor in one league together, and
they're 3-5 and 1.
I think he's like a good buy low candidate right now, though.
Yeah, if you can.
If you really need a running back, I would say try to buy low on Jonathan Taylor. Because you never know, he might be one of those guys that just starts breaking out and get back to his week 1 self.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, everyone other than Jonathan Taylor, I just don't really have any faith in their fantasy outlook for this season.
We'll see what Jeff Saturday can do as the head coach.
Yeah.
Maybe they go one more week with Sam Ehlinger. If it doesn't work out, maybe they go back. Matt Ryan's back at practice, so that's
a good sign,
I guess, for him.
Yeah, but it just seems like there's drama. I hope they get over it. I hope Matt Ryan gets it together. Another offense that's not really looking too good, in my opinion, is the Detroit Lions. From weeks 1 through 4, Jared Goff looked like he was poised for a comeback season. But since he finished as the quarterback 1 in week 4, he hasn't finished above quarterback 14.
Wow.
And he's also got one of his favorite targets in TJ Hawkinson traded to the Vikings. So it just might not be a bright road ahead for Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown has fallen out of the wide receiver 2 category. He's sitting as the wide receiver 27 on the year. The first 2 weeks, he put up a combined 59.8 PPR points. But since then, he only has 43.9 PPR points in week 3, week 5, week 7, week 8, and week 9 combined. So has more points in his first 2 weeks than his last 5 games played. Maybe he has a lingering injury issue as well. I hope he gets over it. I think he may start to produce later on in the season. But, we still don't know when DeAndre Swift is going to return as the lead back. Kind of like a very similar situation to Amon-Ra. He went off his first 2 weeks. He had 43.2 combined PPR points in weeks 1 and 2. But he only has 29.9 combined points in weeks 3, 8, and 9. So he still could be dealing with the lingering injury as well. Jamal Williams is also doing a very good job as his backup. He's currently the running back 15 due to all the workload he's been getting. So, and yeah, man, losing T.J. Hawkinson is just a very big blow to Jared Goff fantasy owners and his fantasy relevance and to this Lions offense as a whole. And really, the only thing I feel like that Lions fans can look forward to right now is the return of Jameson Williams.
Yeah, and if you look here, I mean, the first 4 weeks, like you said, that Lions offense was, I think, leading the NFL in points per game. They put up 35, then 36, then 24, then 45, and then the Patriots shut them out for 0. Then they came back against the Cowboys and put up 6, and then they went back up 27 against the Dolphins, and then they beat the Packers by scoring only 15 points. So
yeah,
it's been
sometimes getting blown out could just be a big blow to your team.
I mean,
man.
they put up what? They put up more points in that one game against the Seahawks than they almost did the last 4 weeks of the season. So since they scored 45 against the Seahawks, they combined for, let's see the numbers, 48 total points. So in 4 straight weeks, they've only scored three more points than that. And they lost that week when they scored 45 points. So
yeah.
So it hasn't been it's been a lot of injuries. I feel like Michael Pittman's missed games. Amon-Ra St. Brown's missed games. DeAndre Swift has missed games. Jonathan Taylor's missed games. And just like you said, Hawkinson's now gone. And just those teams, I would just maybe some buy low candidates. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown you buy low. Maybe Swift. I've been trying to get rid of Swift and Taylor all year, and really no one wants them. So
yeah.
At this point, I'm just going to
They're
hold on to
them. They're kind of like
them.
Players like you want to get rid of, but you don't want to get rid of at the same time.
In a dynasty format. They're still young players that maybe they break out. Maybe they go back to what they were doing. Why people were so high on them in startup leagues this year. So
yeah,
it's definitely a stressful year for me, especially DeAndre Swift owner. Like I've had him the last 2 years in dynasty, and I drafted him his rookie year in redraft, and I feel like every week he's questionable. This is the first week he's actually going into Sunday healthy, at the healthy status.
Yeah.
But Jamal Williams still might take those carries. Jamal Williams, the only bright spot I feel like.
Yeah, really.
You probably draft him in the last 3 or 4 rounds in drafts, and you're able to start him as your RB2 flex spot.
Yeah.
You're chilling.
But if you're a DeAndre Swift owner, Jamal Williams getting all those touches and carries is not good for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much my little segment on those two teams.
Yeah, I like it. And we can kind of call this like that one Clint Eastwood movie, the good, the bad, the ugly. We started with the good teams. Now we moved on to the bad, and now we're going to go into the ugly and talk about some key injuries this week, especially at the quarterback position. Kyler Murray is questionable this week, has been limited at practice pretty much all week. Ryan Tannehill also limited this week, has missed his last 2 games. And Malik Willis, I don't think he's even thrown the ball the last 2 weeks. I think last week they didn't even throw the ball. Something like that. But Ryan Tannehill, not looking good for him on Sunday. They might just rely on Derrick Henry again as the quarterback / running back. Josh Allen's missed a couple practices. Finally on Friday, he was limited, but not looking good for Josh Allen. Earlier in the week, they thought he might need Tommy John surgery. Then the reports came out that he will be able to play through the injury. My money's on Josh Allen playing this Sunday, but just keep your eye out. They might limit it and try to lean more on the run game than run his arm off. So we'll see there. Buffalo Bills. And then we have Matthew Stafford questionable with a concussion. So 4 guys that were drafted this year as your quarterback. I'm sure Tannehill and Stafford at this point aren't on your teams anymore, or they're QB2 and super flex leagues, but not looking good. The running back position, not a lot of injuries there, but J.D. McKissick missed practice Friday again, and he missed last game. So if that's the case, I say throw in Antonio Gibson in your lineups. Line up Brian Robinson. They didn't do much last week, but
it's a solid little committee right there.
Yeah, solid little committee with McKissick's out. So we'll see. Zeke also questionable. And just if he misses the game, definitely start up Pollard. I say start up Pollard either way. If Zeke is healthy, they might just do it as like a bait. I think Pollard still will be the main back in that offense, especially after putting up 33.7 fantasy points last game. Well, his last game they played, that they're coming off a bye week, so we'll see if Zeke can play. And let's move on to the wide receivers. Romeo Doubs out. They might put him on IR. We'll see. Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks, both questionable. I would say they both don't play in this game. I feel like Brandon Cooks, he's still upset that he didn't get traded.
Yeah.
And Nico Collins has missed the last few games with his injury. So if that's the case, you can rely on Phillip Dorsett or Chris Moore as a streamer tight end or wide receiver if you need a wide receiver this week.
Desperation play.
Yeah, desperation as a flex spot. But just look for those 2 guys. McCole Hardman's out. this week. He's been a decent wide receiver too, or flex spot on fantasy teams this year.
Yeah,
He's been pretty
been
hot
kind of
as
the bright
of late.
spot of the KC offense.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Juju's been heating up. He's been heating up, but
Juju's
McCall
nice
Hardman's
too,
out, so I say could get Darius Toney now his second week with the team. Maybe
hopefully he can pick it up.
Maybe he can be a boom this week.
Yeah, hopefully.
So check out him. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out again. So Josh Palmer, fire him up. And Hunter Renfrow, who's missed a couple games this year with the concussion, now on the IR. So going to miss the next 4 games at the least. A guy who was a wide receiver 1 last year.
I'm very high on Renfrow. It's very sad.
As a wide receiver 15 this year. 15, like 55 or whatever. So
yeah,
not looking good for Hunter Renfrow. I think at this point you can get rid of him in redraft leagues. And tight ends, and just like his Hunter Renfrow, his teammate Darren Waller, also on IR now, also set to miss the next 4 games.
Also disappointing.
And also disappointing. The whole Raiders team has just been disappointing, except for like Josh Jacobs and Devonta Adams, and that's really it. And Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox, they're both going to be out, which means Kylan Granson, the rookie tight end, could be the main tight end. Hasn't looked bad. He does play about 40% of the snaps, even when those 2 guys are healthy. So if those 2 guys are out, he's going to be playing most of the game. And, maybe if you need a streaming tight end, Kylan Granson, we'll see what he can do. But we talk about the Colts being a horrible team. I wouldn't really rely on it with the quarterback situation there.
Yeah, for sure.
And David Njoku going to miss another game this week. I feel like at this point the Browns just might save him for when Deshaun Watson comes back. But Njoku was like the top 3 tight end before getting injured. He's going to be missing another game. So a lot of big injuries this week for a lot of guys that people drafted.
Yeah, it would be smart. It would be smart for them to save Njoku for
they have a bye week
Watson.
next week as well.
Yeah, just save everyone for Deshaun. Honestly,
yeah,
save Cooper. Save
everyone.
Save Chubb.
So yeah, those are our injuries this week, and we'll move on to our picks. I want to start off with our Week 10 picks.
Yeah, I'll start it off with Alabama boy Jerry Jeudy. He finished as a solid wide receiver 2 the last 2 weeks he's played. He would finish as the wide receiver 16 in Week 7 versus the Jets, and wide receiver 14 in Week 8 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he's facing the Tennessee Titans this week. That Titans defense could either be really good or really not good. So I feel like Jerry Jeudy and Russell Wilson, they're starting to get a good connection. So I'll pick Jerry Jeudy this week.
Yeah, it's definitely more Jerry Jeudy and Russell Wilson now than Cortland Sutton and Russell Wilson,
for sure,
which it was in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And that'll move me on to my first pick. My only running back I have this week, it's going to be CMC. I told Bro, I'm surprised none of us have picked CMC this year, but I'll pick him this year. Coming off a bye week, he is the RB4 overall. And his first, game but his first game with the Niners as the main back, he put up 40 fantasy points. We haven't seen Christian McCaffrey put up fantasy points since he was fully healthy back in 2019 when people were drafting him first overall. And he's facing the Chargers defense, allowing the second most fantasy points to running backs at 30.08. I could see Christian McCaffrey finishing around 30-35 fantasy points this game.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely see him dominating my team. I definitely see the whole Niners dominating my team. Don't have much faith.
A lot of injuries over there.
Yeah. But that brings me to my second pick, Justin Fields at the Detroit Lions. Looking to stay hot after his big week last week. He only threw for 123 yards, but he still had 3 passing touchdowns. He had 178 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown on the ground against the Dolphins. And yeah, that was the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a regular season game. And Detroit is another struggling defense, so I just think he'll go off against them.
Yeah, that's a crazy. I didn't even know that was the most ever. When you told me that today, I was like, that's the most ever by a quarterback rushing yards.
Yeah, in a
Lamar
regular
Jackson
season
and
game.
Michael Vick never did anything like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fields, he had some big explosive runs. Looking good, Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Definitely go pick him up if he's still on waivers. I know in some leagues he is, because one of our friends asked us if he should pick him. I said, maybe you should, or maybe save your waiver pick if you trust your quarterbacks. And that'll move me on to my next pick, Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver 3 right now in fantasy. I think he's going to have a big game facing his former team, the Minnesota Vikings, for the first time ever since getting traded.
Yeah.
And Stephon Diggs,
go off.
Yeah, he has that attitude where he wants to go out and kill you and go off.
He's a dog.
He's him. That's
he's
what
a dog.
He's
him. Yeah,
he's a dog. So expect him to go off. He scored double digits every game this season. He's seen an average of 10 targets per game. He's averaging 107.13 yards per game. He has 7 touchdowns already this year. So I believe he's going to be on pace to break his career high, which was 10 last year. And he's facing his former team, the Vikings, who are allowing the 6th most points to wide receivers at 67.95. So, like, even if Josh Allen is limited in this game or doesn't play, I still think the Case Keenum will find Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And whoever's at quarterback will find Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, hopefully it's Josh Allen.
He's going to demand that ball.
Yeah, hopefully it's Josh Allen. But, yeah, like you said, he'll probably freaking make Casey Keenum throw him the ball. That's how much he wants to destroy the Vikings. Case Keenum also playing his former team, the Vikings.
Yeah,
so revenge game for both of them.
And Case Keenum's the one that threw that late playoff pass to him in that one game. Stephon Diggs, where he threw his helmet off and he was crying after the game. I remember watching that game. That was a crazy game. And that was Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs. Maybe they plug in against the Vikings that moment. And they say, they can relive that moment. Had us.
But yeah, another wide receiver I'm gonna go with is actually the teammate of the last pick I had, Darnell Mooney. First time finishing as a high-end wide receiver 2 against the Miami Dolphins. He finished as a wide receiver 13. He scored 17.5 PPR points, had 7 receptions and 1 touchdowns. And the Lions have allowed 70 or more yards to 11 different receivers this season. So I think Darnell Mooney could be the 12th.
Yeah, for sure. And he's starting to heat up a little bit as well as the season goes on with Fields. So
yeah,
the Bears definitely young offense that could be something to look out for in the second half of this season. Even and the future, next year especially, for real. As long as they get more pieces in their defense. Yeah, so we'll see. Now moving on to a guy that I would never expect to pick, a guy that I was not high on this year, Juju Smith-Schuster. He is the wide receiver 22, so proving me wrong, and he's done it as of late. He has finished as a top 8 overall wide receiver the last 3 weeks. He's averaging 22.17 points per game the last 3 games. And he should be Mahomes' main weapon once again. Like we said, no McCole Hardman. I think Juju will finish in that wide receiver 1 range once again this week. Looking hot.
It's crazy what Mahomes could do for you.
Yeah, but Juju did start off a little slow, but now he's starting to pick it up again.
Yeah.
And
maybe he just needed a good quarterback.
He wants to stay. He has a 1-year deal, and he says he wants to stay in Kansas City. If he still plays like that, I don't see why they don't, bring back Juju Smith.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go with a guy that's playing against Kansas City. Travis Etienne has 51.8 PPR points since the departure of James Robinson. And Derrick Henry just had a monster game against this Chiefs defense. He had 115 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in Week 9. So, Travis Etienne, he has 109 or more rushing yards with at least 1 touchdown in 3 straight games. So, this boy's hot. He's gonna look to get hotter. He's finally producing as the bell cow we all expected, and yeah, he's gonna go off against this Chiefs defense.
Yeah, for sure. And another guy, we talked about the Lions being bad. I think this is the week where Amon-Ra St. Brown at least is finally a positive sign for him. You mentioned it. He hasn't finished as a wide receiver 1 overall, in the wide receiver 1 range since week 2. But he's due for a big game against the Bears, a team that Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle just torched last week.
Yeah.
Really, right now, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the only receiving weapon on that team. Josh Reynolds is out. DJ Chark is on the IR, so I don't even know who else they're going to throw out there.
Me either. I really don't.
Amon-Ra has been getting a lot of targets the last couple games with those guys out, so I think expect him to have another,
Yeah, he's probably going to be the only bright spot.
And I think he finally goes off. I think he finishes as top 10 wide receiver this week.
Yeah, for sure. I remember last year when T.J. Hawkinson went down with his hand injury. Amon-Ra, he was the star of the show.
And that's when he started popping up.
And he won a lot of people leagues, so he could definitely be that league winner against this year. Another league winner and my last pick is Nick Chubb, man. Nick Chubb, he's having a dominant season. He's ran for 100-plus yards in 5 of 8 games this season, and in 6 of 8 games, he's finished as a running back 1 for the week. He's finished as the running back 1 in Week 2 versus the New York Jets. Finished as a running back 9 in Week 3 versus Pittsburgh. A running back 11 in Week 4 at Atlanta. Running back 7 in Week 5 against my Chargers, a running back 9 in Week 7 against Baltimore, and a running back 6 in Week 8 versus Cincinnati. So he has 841 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns on the season. That's pure dominance. I expect Chubb to continue the dominance against a pretty good Dolphins defense.
Yeah, for sure. And they're another team that's running the ball a lot with the quarterback situation there. And that will move me to my last pick, DeAndre Hopkins, Mr. D-Hop. Since coming back from suspension, he's the overall wide receiver 2. He has scored 67.8 fantasy points per game. Or not points per game, but 67.8 fantasy points total since coming back from his suspension. And he's facing a Rams defense that they've played already. In week 3, Marquise Brown, who was a wide receiver 1, finished with his best game of the season, had 28 fantasy points that game, 14 catches on 17 targets, and 140 yards. So expect a similar game, if not even a better game, from DeAndre Hopkins against a Rams defense that Kyler Murray looked really good against in week 3.
Yeah, man. They really missed D-Hop.
Yeah.
They really missed him.
And it kind of worked out for them. Right when Marquise Brown went out, DeAndre Hopkins was ready to go. And if only they had both of them on that field. I couldn't even imagine what that offense would look like with both those guys on the field right now.
Yeah, it's crazy because when D-Hop's out, like Marquise Brown is getting all this target share. He's getting all these PPR points. And then right when he goes down, D-Hop comes back. And D-Hop's getting all this target share and all these PPR points. Rondale Moore's been cooking too.
AJ Green went out. Then Rondale Moore came back. It's like they haven't had like their fully healthy team.
Now James Conner's back.
So
yeah.
We'll see.
But yeah, that's going to conclude our episode 20. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to upload this one on the Apple Podcast, on the Spotify Podcast, on the RSS. So just keep posted on that.
Yeah, and thank you again for continued love and support. We appreciate all of you guys, you fantasizers out there. And good luck in week 10. I'm getting down to the wire in a lot of leagues at this point.
Yeah, we hope if send us your your playoff possibilities.
Yeah, let us know. It's trade deadline's coming up soon. I'm sure in a lot of fantasy leagues. So
yeah, if you're thinking you're gonna make playoffs and you have questions, let us know. We'll answer them on the show. And
start sit.
So start sit questions. And we're thinking about going live soon, so we could build a little live audience. That would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we still need those 200 subscribers for the YouTube to give away that jersey. So, but nonetheless, thank you guys again, and we will catch you on the next one for next week's Thursday night game.
Yeah, you're a big fat fantasy out.